Entitled Parents. Back in spring of 2018, my cousin and his wife and family were in a serious car accident that was all over their local news. It involved a meth addict speeding through a red light, hitting my cousin's car as well as the one next to his, killing my cousin's 5-month-old daughter, and seriously injuring everyone else. My mom went up to their city to help them deal with the tragedy and manage things, while my dad took me, my brother, and my 2 younger nephews, 7 and 11 at the time, who live with us out to eat at IHOP. While there, Dad received an update on the situation, in form of a news article. He began reading it to us, not too loud though. It described the injuries of each person involved, not in too much detail however. As he was reading it, a lady in a booth next to us turns around and says to my dad, "Can you stop talking about such violent things? My 5-year-old doesn't need to hear it. He'll be traumatized." I might mention her booth was in their own conversation at the time, and we didn't think anyone was quiet enough to even be listening. My dad is a super quiet guy, and doesn't handle conflict very well in the time of occurrence. So he just stumbled, "I'm sorry, but my family is going through a terrible tragedy right now, I'm just updating them on what's going on. They need to know." The mother kept up, "I'm sorry for your loss, but I have a 5-year-old right behind you and I don't want him to hear it." My dad gestured to my youngest nephew, "And we have a 7-year-old, he just wants to know how his cousins are doing." She still wouldn't give up however, and angrily said something along the lines of, "Well, your kids will have problems when they grow up, and I don't want mine to end up like that." My dad gave up at that point and just shook his head. But I could tell he was furious. He later said he wished he gave her a piece of his mind. Hope that kid has fun growing up in a fantasy world until he wakes up to the harsh realization that it ain't all sunshine and rainbows. I am waiting at the Costco pharmacy to pick up my wife's prescription. It is not busy, and I am the only one in line, and I am listening to the impeachment hearing over my headphones. As I am standing there, an exhausted-looking woman with 3 young children, oldest one was maybe 6 or 7, the youngest of which is clearly upset, goes to get in line behind me. Having 1 young child myself, I know how even a little reduction in her weight would be appreciated. I pull out my headphones and the following interaction takes place. "Me, why don't you jump in front of me? I'm not in a rush and I'm sure they, her kids, probably want to get home." Exhausted mother, "Are you sure? Thank you." Me, "Of course. I'm in no rush." As this is happening, the M and her son walk up. Without asking they go to push past me. Me, "Excuse me." M, "I thought you were letting people with children pass you." Me, "I let exhausted mother pass me because kids that age usually don't deal with waiting well, and the youngest is clearly tired or overwhelmed." M, "My son is tired too. You should let us past, it's only fair." Me, "He is a teenager, I am bad at guessing ages but he had to be at least 13, I am sure he can handle a short wait." M, "It not fair." Me, cutting her off, "I was being polite." She went to respond but I turned around and put my headphones in. I guess she took the hint, because she didn't bother me for the next 5 minutes. I take my little cousins to gymnastics every Wednesday. I have since October. Recently, 2 moms have signed their kids up for classes, and their sons sit and wait at tables while they talk to other moms. There is 5 little boys who usually sit at these tables, but they were playing when I got there. Today I got my cousins to gymnastics, got them all dressed and sent them to their class. I set my stuff down at an empty table, sat down, and my cousin ran up to me because her ponytail was falling out, so I got up and grabbed another ponytail to make sure it stayed tight. While I'm up, 1 little boy had occupied the table. There's 4 chairs, so I sat across from him, and played on my phone. This M comes up to me, and taps my shoulder, and says, "Excuse me but my son is sitting at this table." I looked at her funny and she stared at me then said, so you need to get up. I asked her why, and she said it's weird that a grown woman wants to sit next to my 11-year-old so bad. Me, it's a table, I wasn't even talking to him. What are you, 20, you should not be sitting next to a little boy. Pedophiles do that. Me, if you have an issue, go talk to the front desk, I am not moving. Goes and talks to the front desk lady, who basically tells her if I'm not harassing or endangering someone, I am not doing anything wrong, and don't have to move. She grabbed her son and gave me a dirty look and moved across the room. English is not my first language, but I was always pretty good at it from a very young age. Mostly because I liked watching Cartoon Network, and fortunately for me it wasn't dubbed. I should probably clarify that I grew up in Moldova. It's a small Eastern European country. So for my whole life, I've never done English homework assignments at home just because they were too easy for me, so I just did them in class and still got high grades. So we had this girl in our class, you know, the typical excellent pupil and teacher's pet. The one who cried every time she got less than a perfect grade, probably her insane mother's fault actually. Obviously she was beating me in every class except English. So one day her mother comes to school and in the middle of the lesson opens the doors and asks for me. It was in 6th grade, so I was 10 or 11. I go outside to speak to her. She proceeds very calmly explaining to me that it's unfair that her daughter works so hard to be the best at everything and still can't be better than me in English. I tried to explain to her that that is a weird thing to say and that I can't help it, that I know the language better than her and that frankly, it's not my problem, and also that I'm a child and this situation is very uncomfortable. Still, she insisted that I dumb it down so that her daughter would feel superior. This happened 17 years ago and I still remember it like it was yesterday, and am so proud that I managed to stand my ground in front of that crazy lady. This is my friend's story. My friend used to be in a different scout troop than he is now. He hated this troop but left because of this incident. Also in on mobile, and English is my first language. Plus, I don't know any dialuage. EP, guess who? SM, Scoutmaster, the adult leader of a troop. F, my friend. G, my friend's friend, let's call him George. EK, bully. Essentially, every meeting G would be bullied by EK, constantly harassed and made fun of. Unfortunately, EK's parents were the head of the punishment in the troop. When G reported it to the SM with tons of footage, voice recordings, and witnesses, the EPs decided to give G a 2-month suspension instead of EK, just because he was their son, even though it was clear that EK had been bullying him. How messed up is that? Anyway, SM talked one-on-one with G about it, even though that's only supposed to happen for Scoutmaster conferences, about how G bullied EK. This event was witnessed by F and was the last straw for FF joined the other troop, which is actually a fair troop.